All right, what's up, everybody? Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being with me. I am your host, Ryan Michael Bello. Well, we're not even going to do a nootropic show. This is just a regular nootropics video. We're going to kind of alternate between shows and videos and just trying to change it up and keep things exciting. Let's do a minute of product quote before we start, because I want to talk about some real interesting stuff around Aniracetam and the contention, by a particular group of scientists that Aniracetam doesn't alter cognitive behavior in healthy mice. We're going to talk about how that is like a norm. Like, folks say that a lot with racetams, piracetam particularly. And kind of what my take on it is. We'll talk about this study and how that might apply to people that are taking Aniracetam for brain performance coming up. But check it out. We've got 5 major products. Right now, the Cortex stack, that's our nootropic stack. It's a powerful stack. I mean, I built it running a business 18 hours a day. You can't go wrong with Cortex. Focus, motivation, speed of processing. That thing is still $29.99, guys. All right, we're taking it back to $34.99 at the end of this week. So get it at livecortex.com. We wrote 3 digital guides that are mainly stack written. They basically teach you how to use nootropics, but largely they've got lists of nootropic stacks that you can take to achieve significant brain performance that you'll never see anywhere else. Get them at livecortex.com. We'll explain them perhaps throughout the video in certain times, and at the end of the video there's just a small little clip that talks about all these products. And then we do a nootropics consulting service, so those of you that want to sort of ask questions or get stack advice or have me help you formulate a stack. It's a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. All right, so I'm going to take a sip of my Epic coffee. Oh, that's so good. And we are going in. Okay, so check it out. There's a study that was done somewhere around between 2014 and 2016 titled Aniracetam does not alter cognitive and affective behavior in adult mice. They basically talk about the following. I'm going to read you some of the abstract to give you an idea of what they did and how they determined this outcome, and then I'm going to kind of just give you the general, their general consensus if you haven't figured out what exactly they're saying. There is a growing community of individuals who self-administer the nootropic Aniracetam for its purported cognitive enhancing effects. So right away, it's almost like they take a position trying to be a little skeptical about it, which is fine. It's part of science, I get it. Aniracetam is believed to be therapeutically useful for enhancing cognition, alleviating anxiety, and treating various neurodegenerative conditions. Physiologically, Aniracetam enhances both glutamatergic transmission and long-term potentiation. No previous studies have explored the effects of Aniracetam in healthy subjects. And then, what they did is we measured spatial learning in the Morris-Water-Maze test, associative learning in the fear conditioning test, motor learning in the accelerated Rotarod test, and odor discrimination. And then they basically went on to say that despite several studies demonstrating efficacy in impaired subjects, meaning that they proved that Aniracetam helps the cognition of impaired mice. No question. Our findings suggest that Aniracetam does not alter behavior in normal, healthy mice. Yeah, then they make this little, almost like it's a jab at the nootropics community. This study is timely in light of the growing community of healthy humans self-administering nootropic drugs. What the fuck did they just say there? You know what I mean? What did they say? Well, not what I just read, but what did they say? They said, you're a healthy human, don't administer nootropic drugs. That's what we're trying to get you to think. So I'm already very skeptical of this study. Not to say that their results weren't accurate, because they probably were, and they might have been, etc. And that's essentially the extent of it. So let me just talk about that and kind of give my take on it. First of all, it is the case that with a lot of piracetam particularly, there is the position from scientists and folks that try to administer studies or try to extrapolate information from studies that it does not, there really isn't anything to suggest that it helps people that have no cognitive impairments whatsoever. I don't know if that's true or not. It actually might be, and you have to think of it this way: people, that are everyday folks, probably have some degree of cognitive impairment. When they're doing these studies with rats, they're giving them scopolamine, which is like an anticholinergic, or they're giving them something that messes with the system of memory, and then they're giving them racetams and it's helping. So they're putting them in an impaired state. But you have to ask this question: how many humans today are in impaired states? Right? And so this doesn't, and the answer is a lot of people are in impaired states, whether we're talking about myalgic encephalomyelitis or hypothyroidism or type 2 diabetes or some other weird like chronic disease and autoimmune disease that affects brain performance. People are in impaired states, right? So, I mean, I just want to make it clear that this doesn't detract from the efficacy of Aniracetam. Most folks are in impaired states, and I would argue that even a guy like me who's been an avid nootropics user on and off and cycling appropriately, but for just about a decade, there are instances in which I have an impaired brain, and they might be acute, or I didn't sleep well, I drank some alcohol, I did something else wrong. I dealt with a digestive disease for like 3 years over the course of the last 5 years, and there's still a little bit of lingering elements of that digestive issue. Situation in which there are gram-positive bacteria that might be releasing endotoxins in my bloodstream, right? So that could impair my brain function. And so even me, I could get a benefit from something like Aniracetam after taking nootropics for 9 years. But what I want to, what I truly want to say is that point number one, folks have impaired brains. There's no question, right? And so in this study, these folks are dealing with, I think it was 1 to 3 month old mice. And I'm not sure the entire lifespan of a mouse, but you have to think about just how fresh their brains were, right? And in the healthy subjects, these mice, in the healthy mice, they were probably extremely healthy. I mean, they were looking at borderline no impairment whatsoever to their brain functions, meaning they were probably more prime and refreshed and healthy than the average, quote, healthy human is. Which would give more rise to why Aniracetam wouldn't affect them in any reasonable capacity measured by these studies. They can't get into the rat's brain and measure subjective experience, obviously. So we're missing that entire part, which is a critically important piece of this puzzle. And so, perhaps that would be equivalent to giving Aniracetam, at 50 milligrams per kilogram to a 9-year-old whose brain is still pretty good and hasn't gone through a whole lot of damage and impairment, and hasn't gone through his or her 20s and 30s where they might have jacked their brain up from one thing or the other. Okay, what is a healthy adult, right? Like how scant and scarce is a healthy adult these days, right? Perfectly healthy, no mitochondrial damage, no oxidative damage, no neurotransmitter degradation, no depletion of neurotransmitters, no mitochondrial dysfunction. I would argue that is pretty goddamn rare. People are variable, situations are variable, and there's just entirely too many variables in this situation. Yeah, but I don't want to discourage people like, oh no, Aniracetam doesn't work for healthy people, I guess I shouldn't take it. You'll never do anything if you think about life that way. Somebody was arguing with me in the comment section about this, yeah, dude, you're never going to do anything. You're going to sit there thinking you know how it works, and you're never going to try. Meanwhile, in my estimation, 80-90% of the time, you go out and do something based on what you read. It's going to be much different than you read than it was, and that's just how it is. Aniracetam is a rocking nootropic. And lastly, I just want to say, for those of you that were concerned, if anyone was concerned, what happens at the end of this study with the mice, whether they let them free and let them roam or do whatever. All animals were euthanized at the conclusion of the experiment by decapitation. Thanks for watching. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching the video. Thanks for being with me. Ryan Michael Balla here. Check it out. These 4 are our powerful nootropic products. So start from the top. You're going to want to hear this. Number 1, the Cortex stack. That is our powerful pre-made stack. This is the stack you want to take if you want to get work done. Let me just be serious with you. I created that stack running a company 18 hours a day to get my brain to have massive verbal fluency, total motivation, right? Total overall mental fluidity, lots of mental energy, lots of drive to work. I mean, entrepreneurs need brain performance. We created that stack for people that really, really need brain performance and ain't messing around. The Cortex stack, get it at livecortex.com. You will love that stack. Those digital guides, we'll start from the Racetam guide. That guide is a digital stack list of some of the most highly effective brain state specific Racetam stacks on the planet. I mean, basically you're getting oxiracetam, piracetam, aniracetam, phenylpiracetam, coliracetam, faciracetam, nephiracetam, pramiracetam stacks, very powerful stacks of all those racetams laid out in that guide. The New Pep Pro stack list is a giant list of sublingual, oral, and nasal new pep stack. So we've got just myriads of lists of very specific, very surgical new pep stacks that are highly effective, time tested. I mean, you take one of those stacks, your brain turns on, you will thank me. That thing is digital too. These are all digital, downloaded at livecortex.com. And then lastly, Smarter, Better, Faster is a digital guide that teaches anybody that's within the 1 to 2 year range of taking nootropics, how to take nootropics, how to think about taking nootropics, how to use nootropics surgically to really get optimal brain performance, to totally dominate the realm of nootropics. It gives you very many stacks, my favorite stacks, everything from modafinil, caffeine, theanine protocols to aniracetam, microdosing protocols to uridine, ALA, Alcar, choline stacks to basically everything else in between them. If you want the most powerful stacks on the planet, you want my personal stacks and my personal philosophy on taking nootropics, get the Smarter, Better, Faster guide. Get all these guides. Get all of this good nootropic stuff at livecortex.com. We make elite level nootropic products for elite level nootropic players. Are you one of them? Let's find out. livecortex.com. Make it happen. Thanks for being with me.